If happiness is the goal of all goals, surely this deserves some investigation. Welcome to the Action for Happiness podcast. As always, I'm your host, Guy. Our guest today, Vanessa King, has devoted much of her life investigating this subject and going around the world, sharing what she's learned via her talks and her books. Vanessa is a board member at Action for Happiness, and with the team there have gone through hundreds of research papers to not only identify the most important and recurring themes, but to put them in a way that is fun and easy to learn, including her book, The 10 Keys to Happier Living. Vanessa shares her story and how her search for personal growth led her to meet and be part of the Action for Happiness team and to help people.
One of the things that causes a lot of unhappiness for people is a sense of not feeling good enough, not feeling that, that we're as good as other people. I've learned all this fantastic stuff, which has made a difference for me. How can I share it? How can I get it out there?
Action for Happiness is a movement of people committed to building a happier and more caring society. And visit the website actionforhappiness.org/podcasts for more details and to access the latest audio and video episodes. So Vanessa, thank you very much for coming down to do the podcast finally.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
A quote that I love, Mathieu Ricard says it: "If happiness is the goal of all goals, surely this deserves some investigation."
That's brilliant. I've not actually heard that before. That's fantastic.
Which aligns with why you're here quite well.
Yeah. Because often I talk about a lot of what I do is about unpacking, helping people unpack what happiness really is and what happiness really takes. So, which really fits with that quote. It's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah,
because the book 10 Keys to Happier Living.
Yeah.
It contains a summary almost of all the hundreds of research papers that you've sifted through and the conversations that you've had with leading experts to really understand, if we were to categorize it and not only that, but if we were to put it in a way that people can understand, that would be the aim, right? Yeah,
well, I mean, there's a lot of factors that affect how happy we feel. Not all of them are in our control. And it turns out having a sense of control in itself is really important for happiness. So one of the things that I wanted to do with the 10 keys, and indeed, an Action for Happiness, the Action for Happiness, is to actually help people understand and explore and be inspired by the areas the research shows that the key areas that we can make a difference in our own lives and for other people. Most easily. I mean, so that the 10 keys to happier living are the areas the research shows we can take action in that often lead to people feeling happier, more resilient, more fulfilled, etc. So my aim is really to take the science and not to leave it this really useful, valuable information, if you like, sitting in an academic paper, which isn't very accessible for many people.
Right.
And actually, how do we drill down on that, take those ideas and make them really practical and easy for people and help people understand the science behind them too? Because I think it's really important to understand the why as well as the what.
Yeah.
And some people like to do that, so others don't. They just want to try stuff out. But I mean, what I've been really amazed by, and since developing those for before the launch of Action for Happiness, so we developed the 10 keys for Action for Happiness when it launched in 2011. But since then, I'm constantly hearing stories of where people are seeing the 10 keys, because the acronym is Great Dream. Yeah. So people love them.
I saw this in Dubai.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I pointed out to my wife, she didn't believe me. Yeah. And so I referenced, the page 126, of which I have a short feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I give my little spiel on mindfulness and how, my good friend Anne, who's usually my co-host, got me into introducing me the whole John Kabat-Zinn.
Yeah.
So, I feel very much a part of the book as well.
Well, actually, from knowing what I know of you and stuff, and hearing a little bit about your journey and Anne's journey, and I think you actually personify a number of the keys, really. Because I think meaning, not just the mindfulness, but
Sure.
the kind of focus on your goals. You're very clear about where
Mm-hmm.
you want to go with this and what you think the difference you think it can make to other people, which is giving, and a real sense of meaning and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I'm just so impressed by what you and I are doing. Honestly, it's really humbling, and it's really lovely, and you're so creative with it as well. It's fantastic.
But it has been years of thinking this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And just trying to do little steps along the way.
Well, and also that journey evolves, because I think sometimes people, especially when we think about meaning and purpose and our life goals, sometimes we think, oh God, I haven't got any, or God, I've no idea what mine are. And actually, those things, it's not. For some people are lucky. It might come overnight. Think, that's a realization what I want to do. For many people, it's a kind of journey, and one you just take the next stepping stone each time. What feels right now, or what have I got opportunity to do, or where is life taking me?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, where do I want to go next? So, and things have evolved. So, we don't always have a clear path, but, lifelong path ahead of us. It's something we have to kind of discover along the way, really. So, I think it's really so we're meandering.
No, but the important point about when you talk about happiness is happiness means a lot of different things to different people.
Yeah.
And, I've been podcasting now for Action for, had a wonderful relationship with Action for Happiness for many years now.
Yeah.
And when I enter a conversation with certain friends about happiness, I like to lead with the science, because quite quickly it can be, well, you don't know what happiness is for me.
Yeah.
Or, how do you know what happiness is anecdotal to, each his own.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, when you dig into it a bit more, and as we said at the beginning, isn't it not worth some investigation?
Yeah.
If it be the key. That in fact there are a lot of things that you can do to proactively increase your happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I run a lot of workshops with organisations and communities, etc. And one of the questions I often start is, well, what does happiness mean to you? And it's because I think one part of unpacking happiness is really helping people think about that, because we use the word very loosely. I want to be happy, or that makes me happy, etc. And if you ask most people what do they ultimately want in their life, or ultimately want for their kids, most people say, I want to be happy, I want them to be happy. But we don't spend much time thinking about, well, what does that mean, what does it take? So actually, but when you ask people, the word happiness in the psychological literature has this very specific meanings for certain people have different views and different questionnaires and things that they how they interpret it and measure it. So it's a bit of a variety. But when you ask most people, thinking practically, what is happiness for you? What does happiness mean to you? People might start off by saying, oh, sunshine, chocolate, fun night out, whatever, those things. But then they start to dig down, and they realise there's lots of different things: a sense of contentment, a sense of fulfilment, a sense of having other people that you love and love you in your life. Lots of different things. And I think it's the ancient Greeks. The ancient Greeks had two definitions of happiness. They had hedonia, where hedonism comes from, pleasure. And yes, we can have too much of that. But actually, some pleasure is indeed a good thing from the science. We know that. But ancient Greeks also talked about eudaimonia, which is a sense of fulfillment, leading a good life, a life truly well lived, thriving. And it's quite interesting, because we know if we're working towards sort of fulfillment or things that will ultimately lead us to a sense of satisfaction, that doesn't always feel good in the moment. And sometimes it can feel really hard, like you're pushing a rock up a hill. You probably found that setting up your podcast and getting those going, it's hard work. It's really hard work. So the pleasurable stuff, you need some little moments of pleasure that help you get on with work towards more fulfilling goals. So I think we need a mix of both, pleasure and fulfillment in our lives, and they help. They're mutually reinforcing. So I think I like the ancient Greek, that sort of sense of happiness, the hedonic and the eudaimonic is, for me, that is a really full definition of happiness. Yeah.
So what led you along this path?
To come to this?
Yeah, so you had a corporate background.
Yeah, I'm an accountant.
Before taking the, this action for happiness journey.
Yeah.
Right, where it's about traveling around the world, either via your TED Talks or your the books that you're writing
I do a lot of public speaking.
To share these ideas.
Yeah.
Was there a pivotal moment in your life, or
but I think it's both. A mixture actually. There's a sort of stepping stones on the journey, and then there was a couple of pivotal moments. One is firstly, my first degree was psychology and biology, so I studied a joint degree. Mm-hmm. So I was clearly interested in the psychological science and interested in what makes us tick physically and psychologically. But I kind of got way low when I left university. I went to train as a chartered accountant. I qualified with PwC, and that seemed like a sensible thing at the time. It was a good graduate job, a good employer, good foundation, and I kind of got through it. I passed my exams. A bit of
enjoying it along the way.
No, not really. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Well, not too much blood, quite a few tears. Quite a lot of sweat. And I made good friends, and I enjoyed being part of those companies. But it really wasn't something that, if you like, made my heart sing. It wasn't my natural state of it. In fact, when I left, one of my accounting jobs, and the senior partner said to me, he said, I was moving to another firm of accountants to do a different type of accounting. He said, I wish you luck, but Vanessa, he said, I hope you're making the right decision. I can't help you think you'd be much happier there in the BBC. And I think he probably saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, because it was very up in my head, very cognitive. Mm-hmm. But wasn't really tuning into kind of my heart or my strengths or whatever. So anyway, I went on this journey, but I ended up, I realised that I was much more interested in the people side of things than the numbers side of things. Yeah. So I moved to a job in human resources, and I managed the bonus pool in an investment bank for a while. And then I was a client of a consultancy, a big sort of HR consultancy, global HR consultancy, and they offered me a job working with them. And I started off looking at sort of motivation factors like pay, but gradually moved into the more developmental stuff and looking at what is talent, of identifying talent, developing talent, and I liked that. That was more in my sort of space. But I was at a conference one day, a World Congress of HR on leadership development. It's about 10 years ago, and somebody was talking about the science of strengths and why don't we focus on in organisations developing strengths, not sort of limiting weaknesses and trying to develop weaknesses. And it was like a light bulb went off. I thought it was very much oriented to my way of thinking, and actually I developed some projects that had that kind of ethos in them before even knowing about it. But this was like, oh my God, you can, there's a whole science here, you can go and learn about it. And so I came home, Googled, and found that Martin Seligman at University of Pennsylvania had catalysed this shift in psychological research, or its expansion of psychological research from not just focusing on what goes wrong and how to cure that, but actually why do things go right, and how do we share and spread that to enable people to flourish. I thought, God, that's amazing. So I found that you could go and study it. You could do a master's degree with him. Thought, I'm going to apply. So literally, I got the forms within a matter of a couple of weeks. I'd applied, which is quite an involved process, because you have to get references and transcripts from your previous universities and things like that. So I got in, and I was amazed, and got in, was very nervous.
So moved from the UK to the US?
I commuted, because it's taught on an executive basis, so I commuted for the first semester, moved there for the second semester. Okay. Yeah, so... it was amazing. My friends that I still have from accounting days, who thought I was slightly odd moving from accounting to HR, thought I was completely nuts going to study sort of happiness, or, in the US. But actually, it was an amazing year. It had its ups and downs, very intense. People came in from all around the world, from Australia, New Zealand, across the States, all over to do this program. And then, and there's quite a network amongst of the different years that the program's been running. But it was fantastic. So that was my kind of immersion into the topic. And because Marty Selig, it's his program, and he's so influential, it meant that we had the great and the good of the field would come in and teach us. So we get a day with Barbara Fredrickson or a day with Chris Peterson, and amazing people coming in. It's just such luxury, a small number of you spending this day really in depth with these amazing minds. It was fantastic. And then I was when I just handed in my dissertation for the masters. And 3 days later, I was on a plane to Beijing because one of my classmates was Chinese and was running the first positive psychology conference in China. And I found myself
the first
positive psychology conference in China. It was they'd not had one before. In fact, there was the two first positive psychology conferences in China were in 2 weeks apart. One was they ended up one focused general and one focused on education. But anyway, I got upgraded from the back of the plane to business class, which was really lucky. And sometimes this is really funny how the universe kind of, seems to work in your favour. I'm not given to all that kind of stuff, but sometimes. And I found myself sitting next to Anthony Seldom, Seldom, who I knew Marty Seligman and thought Anthony would be going out to the positive psychology conference, but he wasn't. But I introduced myself to him as we were getting off and said, I know, Marty, you're going to the conference, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, I'm not. Then we started chatting. He said, how are you getting to your hotel? I said, well, taxi. He said, well, I've got a driver waiting for me. We can drop you off. So it was so kind. And we had a long chat. And I said, well, I've immersed myself in taking this sabbatical. It's a big scary leap in a way. And immerse myself in this. I now, built up sort of people in the field in the US and elsewhere, but don't really know what's happening in the UK, because at that time there was probably only the third person, I think, to have done the program.
Nice.
Yeah, amazing. And now the words positive psychology, happiness, well-being and resilience. There's a much greater focus on those things now than there was sort of nine years ago. Anyway, Anthony said, we've just founded, Richard Layard and I and Jeff Mulgan who was at the Young Foundation, have just founded a new social movement, Action for Happiness. And we've literally just hired a director. You must go and meet him. And that's Mark Williamson. So a few weeks later, I found myself meeting Mark, and Mark had come into the job from the Carbon Trust, fantastic mind, fantastic sort of strategy, organisational person, but didn't have a psychological background. So, and I offered to help out. How can I help? He said, well, if you could help us think about, what psychology we put on the website, what actions that, we're all about taking action for happiness, but what actions we actually tell people to do. So that's how I got involved. And my sabbatical, which had been a year to do the masters, was extended by 6 months. So again, a big investment, because I wasn't working, and I'm not from a wealthy background. So it was an investment. But it just seemed that it was amazing to be part of something at the start where it was I could use the stuff that I'd just been learning and immersed in so directly and get it out there to people and connect with people that are interested and wanting to take this stuff further. So it was a amazing opportunity and really exciting.
Luck when opportunity meets preparation, right?
Well, it was but it really was. It felt really, there were some other things that happened along my journey that kind of, just think, wow, that is really spooky. That it just feels sometimes you are in the right place at the right time, and it is about, like you say, preparation. So I was alert to opportunities. I really was passionate about, I've learned all this fantastic stuff, which has made a difference for me. How can I share it? How can I get it out there? And so it was just amazing, totally fortuitous that I got involved in Action for Happiness. And that's how I developed the 10 keys, because it was, how do we kind of put just playing around with acronyms, because acronyms really help people remember, they help get the message out. And so I came up with the 10 keys and the acronym Great Dream.
You're listening to the Action for Happiness podcast. On today's episode, we speak with Vanessa King, an expert on positive psychology, the author of 10 Keys to Happier Living, and a board member here at Action for Happiness. The first the great piece speaks more about the self, right? Whereas the latter half speaks about, with others and meaning in life, right? So it's more of a...
I mean, this is a broad rule of thumb. I say that the first 5 keys, the great, so giving, relating, exercise, taking care of our body, awareness and trying things out, are things that kind of loosely, things that are sort of externally kind of activities that affect how we feel on the inside. And the dream piece, the direction, resilience, emotions, acceptance, which is self-acceptance, and meaning, are more kind of internal states of being that affect how we are and what we do on the outside. So I tend to think about it as an inside out, outside in,
right.
Well, just to help people explain it. And the first five, we also wanted to align with the 5 ways to well-being that have been developed by New Economics Foundation in 2008 on the back of a big government project on mental capital for the 21st century. And they were asked to come up with 5 a day, the equivalent of 5 a day fruit and veg, the 5 a day for our minds. So the first, I mean, we tweaked them a bit because the research had moved on, but so the great, to align with those 5 ways. So we're standing on a kind of good foundation. Yeah. And then we added the other things because, I know, for example, from my own experience and from, research and observations, I know that one of the things that causes a lot of unhappiness for people is a sense of not feeling good enough, not feeling that, that we're as good as other people, which for us comes under the self-acceptance, the acceptance key. And, that's such a powerful thing, and it can be so destructive for people. I think it's really important to have that in there. Having a sense of meaning and purpose is also really important. So, we wanted to include some of those factors as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then this tie in with this came after the TED Talk, right? And
yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of what comes out of this, both in the TED Talk and this book, is just a summary of the best bits that you've taken from life, right?
From the research,
but from your own experiences as well, from the different courses that you, the university studies, and the research, combination of into. So how did the TED Talk thing come about?
Well, I've done 2 TED Talks. Yeah. So I was really lucky. The first one was at University of Southampton, and I think people are just, because people like the 10 keys and people are curious about happiness and they like the acronym, the Great Dream. So I just got approached for the first TEDx talk, and so did that. It's really challenging because you have a maximum of 18 minutes. And you've got to, there was an audience, I think, of about 100 people, but so it's a kind of weird thing. You're doing it for the audience, or you're doing it for the video, towards the video. So it's a kind of weird thing. And unlike TED Global events, you don't get any coaching or any support. There wasn't even a book Chris Anderson's book wasn't even out on how to do a TED Talk. So it was kind of like, oh my God, it was so hard. And also, when I do a lot of workshops, a lot of public speaking, but I like to do stuff that's really interactive, so you get a bit of audience repartee in sort of 15 to 18 minutes. In that sort of scenario, it's really hard to do that. So it's going to
be very one-directional.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could have done a bit more, but interactive stuff. But it was. It was a very different experience, and I'd never done anything like that before, and that short as well.
Because you literally have to give every word you say is literally your best bits, right? Because so every point you make, everything you say, literally, it has to. You're presenting your best bits and everything that you say.
And it's almost like you've kind of got this script in your head because you haven't got anything in front of you. So it's quite weird. I mean, I think I did the better on the second one because then I got asked to do one in Guernsey, which was really nice. So. The first TED Talk was on 5 questions about happiness, and the second one was on the 10 keys. and that was just before the book came out.
Yeah.
So great experiences, really great experiences. And I'd really want to do. If anyone's listening, I want to do a third one so I can kind of really get it really get it right.
Well, the latest one that I attended the launch last week in Piccadilly.
Yeah.
I came down with Young Guy.
Yeah, I was so pleased you bought him.
It was Prosecco
so nice.
for me and snacks and chips for Young Guy.
We should have had little bottles of milk, shouldn't we?
But the 50 ways to feel happy. So this is aimed more at a younger audience, right?
Yeah, it's aimed at, roughly speaking, kids of age 7 to 11. So, but I've been speaking this morning to someone who's been using some of the ideas with her 4-year-old son.
Yeah.
And another woman who was wrote a review for the book on Amazon and said that she showed it to her 13-year-old son, who was a bit cool,
Yeah.
But then he said, "Oh, I can see they've got some of my ideas in there." So, I've been amazed by the reaction to it. It's been so well received. In fact, it's sold out on Amazon UK. It's coming back in stock, but it's there's a hard copy version, but a hardcover version. But but that's it's like amazing. But I think it's people are really hungry for that, and it's kind of nice because both parents and teachers seem to be really engaged by it. And I think it's nice because there's stuff that they can learn some stuff for themselves, and also there's lots of ideas to do. And together, in fact, I've just had a friend staying who teaches in France, teaches at a French school. She was just staying with me yesterday, and she's taken home a copy because she wants to translate some of the activities into French to use with some of her students. So, which is really nice. So it's been it's great. I mean, now everybody's asking us, well, what are you doing for the older kids or younger kids? So we're thinking about that now because those. I wanted, because I'm sort of an expert in the psychology, but I wanted to make sure we had some expertise of people that have, a background of working with kids. So I asked Val Payne, who's a former teacher, and Peter Harper, who's ran clinical psychology services in a region in the UK, and he. So they kind of helped contribute to some of the ideas for the activities and just making sure that it was appropriate as well. Some of the activities and things were appropriate for that age group and safeguarding issues and things that we need to care about. So it was a nice combined effort because those are important. It's a different things you have to take into account when you're doing stuff for children as opposed to for adults. Yeah. And actually I have to say one thing is that the illustrator, Celeste Ayres, who came through the publisher, Quarto, she's just done the most amazing job because it's so colourful and fun and funny little characters that are really creative. So I'm very visual, so I really like that. Yeah.
You spoke about leaving footprints, and if you were to look back and and maybe for future generations, if you were to describe or in your mind envision what the footprints you're leaving behind, how would you describe it from where you are now? From
what I've left behind already, or what I want to leave behind?
Yeah, I think maybe like leaving behind.
Well,
what are you working to? What would you like to be your legacy?
I mean, it's interesting because I often think it's emergent. So I'm really, really interested in the ideas behind the science. I'm really interested in sharing those ideas with people. And I'm really emphatic about this, not as a prescription. Like the 10 keys are not a prescription; they are a menu. And I really hope that it both catalyzes action, people take action, it inspires action, and people get creative with these things. What are the ways that, the first key is about giving. What are the different ways I can give to other people in my life? It doesn't mean to be big fancy things. It could be tiny things like, checking in on your elderly neighbour or smiling at, the guy in the paper shop, whatever it is. Just thinking about and being creative with these things. So, and I'm very interested. My dissertation, in fact, was around the intersection between creative thinking and well-being. So I'm very interested in how do we develop that. And I don't mean artistic skill. I think artistic skill is a route to expression. It gives you the skills and tools to express creatively, but they're not, creative. We can be creative in a whole host of different ways. This is a creative thing that you've got here with all the kind of equipment and stuff. It's a very creative thing. So I'm interested in that. I'm very interested because I do a lot. My background is working with organisations, so I do a lot of training and development with leaders and managers in organisations. So, and I think that's really important because I think workplaces can be a real force for good, but they can also be terribly damaging and destructive.
Well, we spend most of our lives, right?
A lot of our lives, and there are a lot of our social contact comes, but we don't. We still have an idea that we expect kind of people to be cogs at work, and the emotional side is left behind. We have to leave that behind, and we have to manage ourselves in any social context, of which work is one. But research, Jane Dutton's research, for example, at University of Michigan, has shown interactions in organisations as little as 6 seconds can make a difference to individual well-being, team performance, and organisational performance, and organisational bottom line. Business performance. So those tiny few seconds, the way we are with other people, really make a difference. So I'm very interested in. So I think there's a level of my organisational work is building people's skills and understanding, psychological knowledge really in these areas, and a lot of it is comes from the psychology of motivation that links to the psychology of well-being. But how do we really embed that in what we do at work for ourselves and as we lead other people? And then I think there's a next level up. Is if we were to design organisations now from scratch, based on these psychological principles, what we now know enables people to feel good and function at their best. How would we design them? They probably wouldn't look like the structures we have today or the processes we have today. So how can we creatively apply these principles to the sort of design of institutions, organisations, even schools? So I'd really like to take this stuff upstream to really change those kind of structural things as well as the behavioural things. So there's and I love to learn. So I think also the future is just kind of keep learning and sharing those ideas. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? I've meandered.
That does, and the partnership with Action for Happiness is a great platform in which for you to, like you said, take these ideas and help share them up.
Yeah, well, we don't really promote our work with organisations, but we've done quite a lot actually. It comes that people approach us, which is very lucky, and we shape projects with our clients, and that then the income from those actually supports a lot of our community work, and it's actually really helped Action for Happiness grow and develop, and us be able to kind of fund the community courses and things that we're now really growing, the Exploring What Matters course that are kind of really starting to grow in the UK and internationally. So I see the corporate work actually, and work with schools and things like that as actually really an important kind of source of sustainability for Action for Happiness.
So if they want to find out about you, I know that if you go to the actionforhappiness.org website, there's a bit of information about you there, but where else can they go if they wanted to buy your books and help support?
Well, the books, the book, The Action for Happiness, the adult book. So, one thing I would say on these, because that's for kids, the 50 Ways to Feel Happy, it's based on the 10 Keys.
There's 40 more in there than here.
No, there's loads in here. Actually, there's more than 50 in here.
Yes.
But it's structured around the 10 Keys. So what's great is if teachers or parents want to find out more, dig deeper, they want this for their kids, but they want to find out more, then this is really complementary. They're built on the same foundation. And also we know that adult well-being, teacher well-being, parent well-being has a big impact, a knock-on impact, just by the way the parent or the teacher is with the student has an impact on those children's well-being. It's not just about what you're doing with them; it's just how you are. So your well-being matters as an adult. So I counsel that. So I mean, this took such a lot of work because it's based on thousands of studies. Yeah. And I'm very proud of it. And I've heard lots of people talk. I've had lovely feedback from people how it's helped people change their lives, which is very humbling and wonderful. So, I mean, I'd say those 2 books are great. There's loads on the website. There's the 2 TEDx talks. There's other videos online. I need to update my own personal website and my CV that's on the Action for Happiness. There's a bio on the Action for Happiness website if you can dig deep. And and I think, we often we've got a course based on the 10 keys. So we've got the Exploring What Matters course, which is a discursive course, but we developed a course with Kingston, Royal Borough of Kingston, based on the 10 keys that has been delivered through we train trainers. So people in Kingston have been busy teaching adults the 10 keys course. It's a 6-session course, and it's been really popular, delivered through adult education. So that's great. And we've just done some training with the police forces in Devon and Exeter around those things, around a short sort of practical ideas for happier living as a short course. We've trained trainers in. And we've even done some work with people like Microsoft and other big companies, BT, etc. So there's lots of different ways people can connect with us. And obviously, Action for Happiness is a fantastic social media presence. So if people are wanting inspiration, then I'd say make sure you sign up as a member and follow Action for Happiness on Facebook. Because then you get fantastic newsletters, you get lots of inspiration.
You get the podcast.
You get the podcast. It's amazing.
Find out about the course.
Find out about the course.
The upcoming speakers.
Upcoming speakers. We have fantastic. They're only they're mostly in London, just simply because that's where the volume of people are, and all our speakers.
Was it you that invited Martin Seligman when he came over? Was that?
I think it's a combined effort through Richard. Yeah. Richard, the Action for Happiness was founded by Professor Lord Richard Layard. Yeah. He's very influential in the economics of happiness and measurement, societal measurement of happiness. So he's has lots of contacts. So, when we hear of people who are coming over, like John Kabat-Zinn, like Marty Seligman, like Matthew Rickard, Daniel Goleman, a whole host of names, we invite them to come and speak for us. They very kindly do it for free because it's a way. Again, it's a way. The donations from for those events, because we ask people, we suggest a ticket price, but we don't. It's a donation. So we want to make these ideas accessible to everyone. So,
but not only that, but then the videos that then follow.
Yeah, the videos follow up. So we have videos
a bit more longer lasting and a bigger reach.
So every event is videoed. It's on YouTube. Yep. They're not. We don't have a budget to make them really super fancy, but they're there, and we're trying to actually do them on Facebook Live as well, to the extent that we can, so that it's not just London-based. You can access them from wherever you are in the world. Yes. So it's just a great source of ideas. Different. And it's such a range that not everybody's interested in every topic, but there is literally something for everyone. So whether you're into mindfulness, whether you're into the impact of food on your well-being, whether your impact on how to be kind, whether your impact on health, organisational stuff, there's a whole range of things there. So it's a really rich resource. Yeah.
All right, well, lovely to finally have you come down into the studio.
I'm so pleased to be here.
We'll touch base again soon and we'll do another one.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I'd love it. Yeah,
all right,
I'd love it. Brilliant.
And remember, if you'd like to help create a kinder and happier world, please get involved with Action for Happiness. You can join thousands of others who are spreading a bit more happiness in their homes, workplaces, schools and local communities. Don't forget to subscribe, like and follow to keep up to date with all our content. Find out more at actionforhappiness.org. Join the movement, be the change.